Good evening and welcome to 2021 Wilmington Election Night Live. I am Rob Peterson. I'm here with my co-host for this evening, Jonathan Eaton. Jonathan, it's good to be with you this evening.
Great to be here, Rob.
So tonight we're going to open up. Jonathan and I are going to talk about some things. We're going to talk about what's going on around town. We're then going to get into some information and materials relative to town meeting. We will have folks coming in and out. We'll have Greg Bendel of the Board of Selectmen. We'll have Jen Bryson from the school committee come in and give us some updates relative to their respective boards and committees. And again, later on in this evening, we will recap the races up for election this evening, including the selectman race, the two school committee races, the Shawsheen Tech school committee race, the Wilmington Housing Authority race, and we will have hopefully the results sometime around 8:15. So now, John, without further ado, I think we should start things out tonight by talking about town meeting.
Sure. So town meeting is going to be a week from today, on Saturday, May 1st at 9 o'clock in the morning at the Shriners Auditorium. Traditionally, we've done it at the high school auditorium, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, last June we had to move it to the high school softball field under a tent. This year's town meeting is going to look very similar, just at the Shriners Auditorium. The seating layout is going to be very similar, and all things should be very recognizable for folks who attended last year. It will be socially distanced. Masks will be required. Microphone covers will be handed out to individuals that wish to speak. And there will be a consent agenda, as you as the moderator last year had introduced as a mechanism for discussion to occur on several traditionally non-controversial articles, so that individuals could have their questions answered and their comments made, but one vote will be made to either approve or disapprove several of those articles. So we do have not only the annual town meeting occurring on May 1st, but we also have a special town meeting occurring within the annual town meeting. We did a similar thing in 2018 with a special town meeting that occurred within the annual town meeting. So it's certainly, it has happened in the past before, but largely it's something that doesn't happen every year, but it doesn't mean that we can't get through it, certainly. But we have 64 articles on the annual town meeting and 3 in the special town meeting that'll occur within. So 67 articles all said and done. It should be a lively day.
And just talk about, I know we hit on the logistics, that was really good. And again, to remind the folks at home, this year's annual town meeting will be at the Shriners Auditorium. Again, it does start at 9 o'clock a.m., a little different. It's usually at the high school, but the Shriners has been so generous to donate their building to us so we can have a more safe and more spaced out town meeting given the times that we're in now. So just going over, let's touch on some things you had brought up too. So I know that at last year's annual town meeting, and it went pretty swimmingly, it went well, the consent agenda, and some people usually have, they have questions when anything new is brought in, but the consent agenda is used, again, like you said, to group typically non-controversial articles. And the question last year that was had when we had, the question that was had when that motion was brought to the floor was, well, can you ask questions and how does that work? And can you explain, or we can talk it through relative to if somebody has a question on a consent agenda item, or is there a discussion on a consent agenda item, or is there 2 motions, one for the consent agenda and then one to vote it in? Talk about that.
Sure. So I'll start with the last one first. So yes, there is 2 procedural motions that are the one procedural and the substantive motion. One on whether or not the consent agenda is going to be accepted, and if that passes, then there will be one substantive vote, just yay or nay, on all of the articles that are within that consent agenda. So with respect to the discussion that would take place for all of the substance of the articles that are grouped within a consent agenda, nothing really changes. They're just all up for discussion at the same time because it's all going to be at one ultimate vote. So this is certainly not an exercise that you undertake to try and limit discussion or streamline anything. If it does streamline anything, it's really just the mechanics of calling out the article number, reading the entire article, waiting for a motion, waiting for a second, asking for discussion, and for the articles that are historically not generating much discussion, if any at all, those are the ones that would be appropriate to be putting into a consent agenda so that we can have the one yay or nay vote at the end. So I recognize that we have a $119 million budget, and we have several articles that are for relatively small dollar figures when it comes to it. So I want to make sure that not only is town meeting remain accessible and work towards improving accessibility for people, but also make the best use for folks' time, because people aren't going to attend town meeting if they don't feel like the decisions that are being made there affect them. And while certainly all of the articles are important, the ones that are historically non-controversial and not generating an enormous amount of discussion or even a significant amount of discussion, those are the ones that are not generally the ones that are driving attendance. It's the ones that tend to be a little bit more of the hot button issues. And for those would certainly stay the same.
Yep. Great explanation, and former member of Mass Moderators Association, you will be hopefully stepping into that role later on this evening. Consent agendas have been used across the Commonwealth for years, and they've been used. It's a great tool to move meetings along. And when you have these reach outs to people relative to our annual town meeting or any town meeting for that matter, the biggest thing that thwarts people from showing up to these events is the time. So anything you can do while maintaining discussion in again, the age-old maintaining that purest form of democracy and allowing the debate is great, but there are some things that become more of a, excuse me as my earpiece pops out here, live television, gotta love it. So you maintain that, but you can move the meeting along and then allow people to have the votes and again, like you said, get to the issues that a lot of people are showing up for. And again, but you're not really dismissing anything. It's just these issues or these articles are such that it typically it's time consuming because of the procedure. So you're really just cutting out procedure, but the substantive votes are the same, discussions are the same, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And I think it would be remiss if I didn't take at least some portion of this to thank you for your 6 exceptional years as town moderator, and you've been very generous with me as I've been getting up to speed in preparing for this annual and special town meeting as well. So I certainly being on the Board of Selectmen where you have colleagues that there's an opportunity to say goodbye, and you're a moderator, you're kind of on an island to an extent, but I did want to make sure that it didn't go without saying that you did an exceptional job for 6 great years as a town moderator, and it certainly is a testament to your professionalism that you've stayed on and tried to train me as best you can. So it's very much appreciated, Rob.
Thank you very much, and I know that I'm leaving it in great hands. So now we're going to toss it over who we have in studio with us here this evening. We have Selectman Greg Bendel. Selectman Bendel, thanks for being here this evening.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
So, Greg, I know from talking before we went on air tonight, you have done some grave research relative to elections in the past years here in Wilmington. So why don't you give us a little bit of some background of what we're looking at for our election night results so we can see. We'll be finding out in the 8 o'clock hour relative to how many people actually voted in this year's election, but what were the election results trending like in the years leading up to this year?
Yeah, appreciate that, Rob. Yeah, it's always an exciting time. It's tough to tell, especially when they get springtime here in New England. We ended up with mid-70 degree weather today, and people are busy with all kinds of sorts of things. School vacation plays a factor here. There were a lot of religious events taking place in town today, so it'll be tough to tell. I know earlier today we surpassed about 4.5%, which actually exceeds last year's total. We were at about 3.2% total turnout last year, and given, again, that was only 10 months ago. You'll recall that last year's election took place in June because it was delayed because of COVID. And so if you go back to years prior, 2019, we had about a 19.6% turnout. I don't think we'll get there tonight. I'm projecting that we'll be somewhere above 5, I hope, and obviously the more the merrier, right? But we're just trying to be practical here that clearly we're not going to exceed double digits. But it's an exciting time for all the candidates. I know that right now, having been there in the past, they're probably finishing up holding signs and getting themselves together so that they can come on and join us here at TV, and I'm sure they're all nervous, anxiously awaiting, but it's also an exciting time, and it's the culmination of 4 months of work coming down to today. So I'm really excited to see what happens.
And again, this question is for both for you and Mr. Eaton, who is at the moment wearing 2 hats, running for moderator and still a sitting member of our Board of Selectmen. Can you guys just give us a little bit of what's on the horizon for the town in the coming year? Like, what do you see as the big issues that we're going to be faced with and what we're going to need to address and maybe some things that should be on residents' radars. And that's to both of you, so I'll defer to Greg and then come over back to Jonathan.
Well, I was going to yield to my colleague
right, we'll
one
do that
last
then.
time while I still can, but
I'm the host, but you tell me what to do. Here we go. All right, Mr. Eden, you go first.
We have about 18 minutes left on the Board of Selectmen, so I appreciate Mr. Bendel yielding to me on this. But certainly, we have, as a town, we have a lot of big decisions coming up. Certainly for capital projects, we have decisions to make on a senior center that we've hired a firm to conduct a feasibility study and a schematic design for. We have a decision to make on a town hall / school administration building, where again we've had a owner's project manager hired to conduct a feasibility study and conduct a schematic design for. And we have 6 elementary schools that are aging, and certainly the Wildwood is the priority for having some sort of replacement for. And just about 2 weeks ago, the Mass School Building Authority, which does provide some significant state subsidies for building new schools, did invite the Wilmington into their initial program, which would help flush out what the town would like to do for a replacement for the Wildwood. So we have the next 5 to 10 years are going to be very significant for shaping the infrastructure of Wilmington and what it's going to look like. Just on the schools and really all of our municipal buildings, the town experienced significant growth as the highway came in and had to really catch up because the population in the 50s and 60s were exploding. So during that time period, we built and opened 8 schools, and now those schools are getting close to 70 years old, some of them. So it's going to be time to replace some of them, but town hall is getting old, the senior center is older than all of the schools that we have still functioning. So certainly big decisions with big dollar figures associated with each of them coming up.
Thank you, Mr. Eaton. Mr. Bendel.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Eden. I agree with you. There's certainly some big capital projects that are coming up that are going to really dominate the conversation, I think, in the coming months, in the coming years. We do have a lot of exciting news with the Wildwood School of late. I think that's long overdue and really exciting. I really appreciate the school committee and the superintendent's work on that, as well as the town manager and my colleagues on the board. The senior center study is going on, as you mentioned. I've been sitting in on that. We've just recently hired an architect. We expect that will probably take 10 months to a year to find out what their ideas will be for the location and what the senior center may look like if the town chooses to vote one in at a future town meeting. But also, I think the most important thing is going to be coming out of the pandemic, making sure that we can make sure that Wilmington stays affordable. All these things come with a price tag. Right now, we don't have trash fees, we don't have transportation fees, and we want to keep it that way. That will be challenging for future boards, and it's going to take some creative thinking, outside the box thinking, to make sure that we do that with all these capital projects coming up, like a Wildwood School, a senior center, perhaps a school admin town hall building, maybe a substation. And so, although it's not the first time in our history we've had to take on multiple projects, if you think back to the 1960s, in the early 1960s, they built a school every year for a course of 4 to 5 years. So I can't imagine, I'm not suggesting that we build a school every year, but it has been done. And also, if you go back to 2000, when we built the middle school, we also built the public safety building on that same year. So multiple projects have happened at the same time in our history, and maybe that will be happening in the future. We have to make sure we can do that by keeping people's wallets on the forefront.
Thank you very much, Greg. And thank you for being with us here tonight. We're going to bring you back a little later on.
Sounds good.
For now, we're going to actually toss it to the street, to Tom Pizarro, who was at the polls today, who had interviewed some voters. And again, we're going to toss it over to Tom.
Jennifer Benelli.
Why did you vote today?
I think it's very important for the members of our community, particularly the parents of our community, to be involved in town elections and have their voice heard.
Now, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Wilmington today?
The most important issue facing Wilmington today is really planning for our future, planning to ensure we have safe schools for our students, that we create an environment that is putting Wilmington in a place that's going to be a leader of education in this state.
Thank you. Now, one more question. What would you like to see in Wilmington for the future?
More places where the community can come together and be together and enjoy this town. Also, more stable businesses building our economy.
Why did you vote today?
You know, the kids' education, we got young kids, and education is very paramount for us.
Now, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Wilmington at this time?
I think we do pretty well on lots of aspects, but I think education, particularly the high school level, there's a little bit of a lack of stability, for lack of a better word, and we want stability because kids' education is very paramount. This is the future. This is I must say, Wilmington has done a good job. It's a family town. You know, the kids are well accommodated, but like I said, for me, education is key for these kids. This is the future. You know, this is where they build their future, and I think that's where we need to put emphasis on. You know, we do pretty good in almost all the other aspects.
I really thank you for your time.
Pleasure's always mine.
Thank you.
I voted today because I have some personal folks here. I do think that education is key for Wilmington, and I know Melissa and David will bring some added benefits to the community here. I think the two key things for me are taxes. I think taxes continue to go up, and I don't think that they're really controlling their spend. And the other thing I'm concerned with is the amount of building that's going on. I would like to see it continue as a family neighborhood, and I would like to see building kind of controlled so that we don't become a big city.
Thank you very much.
Hi, this is Matt Savage.
Why did you vote here today?
The most important part was for the school committee.
What do you feel is the most important issue facing Wilmington at this time?
I think the building of residential versus commercial properties, and the fact that there are former school committee, former town selectmen who are now making decisions and lobbying for outside businesses. I'd like to actually see some more family restaurants, but most importantly, I'd love to see an ice hockey rink for the youth of the town.
Hello, my name's Dave Hall. I voted today because I was concerned about the schools. I wanted to make sure that they get away from the remote learning to the in-school learning.
Good morning, Michael Shampoo, resident of Wilmington, voting in Precinct 5. Voted today because I take it very seriously, the responsibility of doing our civic duty. There are candidates on the ballot that deserve, that have put in hard work and deserve our attendance and deserve our votes. So I take it seriously.
Mike, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Wilmington at this time?
Well, certainly there's a host of issues. Near and dear to my heart are economic development issues. Specifically, how can we make our Main Street a more shoppable, more experiential type of district, as well as how can we be more inviting to the kind of corporate enterprises that would choose Wilmington over any number of other local towns. So economic development right now is a big issue.
Hi, I'm Judy O'Connell. I'm a resident of Wilmington out of Precinct 5. I voted because I think it's a responsibility to perform your civic duty by voting, and I see a lot of hard work and dedication on the part of many volunteers who have stepped forward to volunteer for the town, and I want to participate in this process to be supportive of their endeavors and to support the overall government for the town of Wilmington.
Judy, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Wilmington at this time?
In my opinion, it's twofold. I think education right now is paramount to see that our students get back into the classroom and that our overall educational experience in Wilmington is improved, that we get back to a new normal, so to speak. And I do think secondary to that, and equally as important, is economic development, to see that businesses locally thrive and that we attract new businesses as well as retain the existing businesses that we have.
What would you like to see in Wilmington for the future?
I would like to see that it remains a destination for people and families to come here, raise their family, and also to be a viable location for people to want to come and work, such that our businesses are very successful and that we attract new businesses to come. So I'd like to see it be a destination for all people, for all ages.
Thanks a lot, Judy.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm again here with my co-host Jonathan Eaton, and with us now is a member of the school committee, Ms. Jen Bryson. Jen, thank you for being with us here tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So Jen, we're going to have just some conversation, and we're going to defer to my co-host, Mr. Eaton, who's going to ask you some questions about what's going on with the school committee and what you see coming up in the future. Mr. Eaton.
Dr. Bryson, thanks again for being here. I did want to check in because I know as we're coming towards the end of the April vacation, a few weeks ago, the elementary schools went back to full in-person. I just wanted to check in to see how that's gone and what we have to look forward to as the middle school and the high school shift to full in-person as well.
Sure. So things have been going pretty smoothly, and we are really excited to welcome our middle and high schoolers back tomorrow. For all of those who have chosen in-person learning, everyone tomorrow will be in person in Wilmington, which is really exciting for us. You probably notice a lot of those pod storage containers outside all of the schools. So we know that George Hooper and his team and the teachers and the administrators were working tirelessly to prepare the buildings for a full return. But it looks like we are green and ready to go, and we are really excited to start full-time back on Monday.
Great. And how is the elementary schools, how has that process gone, and any changes coming up on just how the first few weeks went?
The elementary schools, it was a pretty smooth transition back in. On all accounts, the children were thrilled, although I heard they were quite tired after their first week back to full in-person learning. But overall, it went pretty smoothly. We had a couple of cases of COVID come up here and there. It led to a couple of more quarantines than we had previously when we were at the 6-foot distancing, but we think everything was handled super well with Shelley and Doreen Crow, and we feel as though things moved pretty reasonably for the return.
Great. Now you mentioned the 6-foot social distancing between students. How has that changed as you've shifted to full in person with all of the students in the building at
So we are not at 6 feet. We are at somewhere between 3 and 5 feet, depending on the size of the classroom. And initially, it was very tricky because the CDC was still requiring you were a close contact if you were less than 6 feet, even if you were masked, and so that was a little bit troublesome. But we recently got some new news, and so now they've slightly changed it, and so the close contact distance is just a little bit shorter, which I think will be very helpful because we believe we can keep most kids at that distance in the schools. So I think we're in a little bit of a better position now than we were a few weeks ago.
So certainly I know that this may be an impossible question to answer as we have roughly 3,000 students enrolled in the school system, but how have the kids really handled the transition back to something that more closely resembles what they're used to, but certainly is still different?
I mean, on all accounts, from the administrators, from central office team, and from families that I've been in touch with, students have handled the transition back rather well. It seems like it's been a real welcome change for them. I know that the kindergartners were in every day for half days, and so now they are back in full, and families have just expressed real excitement about that. Same with our elementary students. I think the middle and high school parents those who have been hybrid, who are returning to full in person, are very much looking forward to having some kind of sense of normalcy for our children. I think the hybrid has been tricky for those who are sort of back and forth. So my own children were hybrid, and so they were in the building twice a week, and then they were at home doing mostly synchronous learning on those other days. And so I think to just have a consistent schedule where things look the way they have looked for them in the past will, I think, help all of our children feel a bit more comfortable and ready for what's next.
Okay. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about mental health of students and how that may have been affected by the very different learning models that have been in place for the past year now. Can you let us know a little bit about, I guess, how that's been proactively addressed and planned for in the future? As this week is certainly not flipping a switch back to what life was like prior to March of last year, but things are still different, and helping kids transition as healthily and safely as possible.
Sure. So Alice Brown-LeGrand and her team have been assessing, obviously, throughout the year. It's not as though students are returning to full in person and now we're looking at their social emotional needs. This has been an ongoing process throughout, since last March. And we have 2 postings for 2 new positions for some social emotional support, additional guidance, and the guidance teams are sort of prepping for what this full return might look like. But like I said, they've been doing this assessment and this coaching throughout the last 12 months at the very least, and so feel as though we're moving in the right direction, but know that there are going to be some additional support. So if people have been tuning into the school committee meetings, they may have seen Alice Brown-LeGrand and Christine Murray present to us a few weeks ago about many of the changes that they are recommending, including 2 new hires, which the school committee did approve.
Great. So I recognize certainly the past year has made long-term planning difficult, and as short-term problems have kind of presented themselves, but given that it's even a few months away, what do we know about what the 2021-2022 school year is going to look like?
Sure. So, we are very much looking forward to the next 8 weeks and making sure that it is as smooth and seamless and enjoyable for our students and teachers as possible. We've been moving along with the strategic plan, but we're really looking forward to sort of getting back into that. We will restart that school start time committee come the fall. The middle school steering committee is steadily working, and so there has been still a lot of moves forward during this time, where it does feel like we're constantly trying to sort of keep up with COVID and keep up with the new regulations and make sure that we're keeping students and staff safe. But we have still been steadily moving forward on many of our initiatives, and so we look forward to that. Obviously, we were invited into MSBA, which is very exciting news, and so that work will sort of officially begin in July. And that starts with kind of the formation of a building planning committee. We'll start looking at projected enrollments. They'll talk to us about what we want our educational planning to look like, what will best suit the needs for Wilmington. So we're really excited about the work, and we'll really be looking to the community to engage in some of that work with us, because this is obviously for all of us and for our children, so we're very much looking forward to that. And then lastly, as you mentioned earlier, are the social emotional needs, the learning needs of our students, and so we've been doing work on this all year, but we'll really be looking very closely at the social emotional learning needs of our children, the learning that we may need to think about moving forward for next year, what that assessment will look like at the beginning of next year. So we're starting exactly, you may have heard in the last school committee meeting, our assistant superintendent talked about utilizing different assessments and saying, okay, so if we didn't complete this last year, what will it look like this year? How do we make sure that we're meeting the needs of all students so that everyone is exactly where they need to be? And so this work has been ongoing, but I imagine it will really sort of start to move much, much faster in the coming weeks. And obviously for the new school year, we are hoping that the next 8 weeks are a sort of a projection of where we will be in the fall. We have every intention of opening our doors full as we are on Monday. So we're very excited. I think I'm over time.
Thank you, Dr. Bryson. Certainly it seems like you've had a busy year and you have a lot of work ahead of you. But thank you for joining us tonight and letting us know what the future holds. We are going to take a short break, so we will be back as the polls have officially closed here in Wilmington.
Netflix, Peacock, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, streaming media services change not only people's viewing habits, but also change the dynamics facing WCTV. Content is tailored to specific viewer interests, which, for the viewer, is a good thing. It allows people to cut the cord and eliminate programming they neither watch or need. An unforeseen consequence is that it impacts WCTV in a very challenging and costly way.
WCTV is funded almost entirely by a percentage of cable companies' revenues, based off the amount of cable subscribers we have in Wilmington. In short, less cable subscribers equals less revenue for WCTV. If you utilize any of WCTV's resources by creating your own program or watching local meetings and sports online, and you are not a cable subscriber, there is a way to help. I hope you will consider making a donation so that we can continue delivering these programs and more to you. For those of you who have made a donation, I thank you. We do receive these and we are very appreciative.
Good evening, Wilmington. We are back. Again, I'm Rob Peterson here with Jonathan Eaton. It is 8:02. Polls closed 2 minutes ago. And now Mr. Eaton to my right over here is at least officially no longer a selectman. He seems relieved. That's a quick little joke. But we do actually have the candidate for selectman with us here right now to discuss her candidacy and her election process. And we're going to bring her on in a second. But Jonathan, just so you can say, or what we can go over, what do you think? What did you see at the polls today when you were going to vote, or if you were out there?
So I thought the turnout was pretty light, to be honest with you. It's still, we're in a difficult environment where not everyone's comfortable going, and there were several uncontested races. And the contested races that were in play, there was really not a lot of controversy that came with it. And because of that, I think we're going to end up with voter turnout being still pretty low, but certainly appreciate all the candidates for putting their names forward and sticking their necks out to run for public office and serve the community. And we'll be waiting in the next few minutes to see the results as they trickle in.
Yeah, again, as soon as the results trickle in, or they're reported at Town Hall, we will have a man over at Town Hall reporting on those. But for now, I want to welcome to the studio candidate, or well, as 8:03, we'll so hopefully one of our next selectmen, Lil Maselli. Lil, thank you for being with us here tonight. Just a couple quick little discussion. So why don't you take us through the election process, how campaigning went, what was your favorite part, and some of the things you did throughout the campaigning process.
Well, I'm unopposed, but I took it seriously, so I wanted to launch a campaign and run a campaign. So, I created a Facebook page, a social media presence, put some updates out there throughout the weeks leading up to the election, signs. We were out there all day today, rotating between the 3 polling stations, and just putting out there, what I want to do if elected. I've said many times in my post that, I take it seriously, so I'm going to run my campaign, even though I'm unopposed, because I want people to realize that I do take it seriously, and it's something that I do still feel I have to earn, even though, again, unopposed. I just don't believe that, things come easy, and if you really want something, you should just put forth the effort. So that's why I did what I did.
So, Lil, first I'll congratulate you and thank you for stepping up and serving the community. You now have the very quick turnaround because your first meeting is really just 2 days from now. And hopefully as you're sworn in tonight at Town Hall, you're given a packet for your meeting Monday night. So certainly you're going to have to hit the ground running. What are your expectations for the role in terms of really, I guess, a lot of the big decisions that are coming up? Not to dive too deep into the issues, but I guess you spoke a lot about hitting the ground running and taking it seriously despite the fact that you didn't have an opponent. But what are your expectations as you step into this very different role?
So I've been doing a lot of homework over the last few months. Been going back and watching some previous selectmen meeting, finance meeting, planning board meetings, and getting up to speed on the issues in town, what's going before the board, the articles. I've been reading through the articles. There's a lot of them, as you know, so I've been getting through them little by little, but I think I'm ready, I'm pretty well versed in them, kind of have, my thoughts, and it's interesting. I will say that, as you dive deep into some of these issues in articles, you think you have one opinion, and as you keep doing some research, it kind of, there's a lot of information, and I've definitely learned that, you have to do your homework. And you have to have your own opinion. You have to make your own, you have discussions with people, of course, but that's one thing I've learned is that you have to do your homework. You have to learn. It's not about just going up there and giving your opinion on things. You have to understand what you're, voting on and putting before the people, and make sure that the people, you're making the right choices for the people. That's why I'm here. I want to be a voice for the people. I do think we need certain changes in town. I think we all know that. So I'm just hoping to be, a voice for that and hopefully part of a good move forward and change.
Great. Thank you again. Lil, as we do every election night, I want to give you a chance to address the voters, thank the people in your family, friends, anyone who helped in your campaign. So we'll give you a chance right now to address, address Wilmington.
Thank you. First off, I just want to thank my family, my husband, our boys, Joseph, Michael, and David. A little extra special to Joseph just because he was my campaign manager, so I really couldn't have done it without him. But also for Michael and David, my parents, Mark, for being out there with at the polls today. They all gave up their day or a good chunk of it. And I do believe something like this, your family does have to be behind you and supporting you and all in. And they were from the second I told them that I wanted to do this. So thank you. And for everybody that voted for me, people that have reached out, people I know, people I don't know, thank you so much for the support. And I saw a lot of you out there at the polls today. So I appreciate you going out there and giving me a vote. Again, I'm uncontested, but call it a confidence vote, but I do appreciate that. So I hope to be your next selectman, and I hope I do right by all of you. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, and I think I speak for myself and Jonathan when I say thank you for putting yourself out there and for representing our community. So Jonathan, again, thank you very much.
Thank you both.
So Jonathan, we're going to have some other candidates coming in and out tonight. I believe we have Mr. David Ragsdale coming up next. So we're going to bring him on. But in the interim, why don't you give us a little bit of insight to how you're working to transition yourself from your role as selectman to your role as moderator?
Sure. So they're very different roles. As when you're a member of the Board of Selectmen, what you're really doing is you're doing a lot of advocacy work. So you're working towards striving towards specific goals and trying to navigate through the different obstacles to get there in the way that best suits the town. So whether it's negotiating contracts for our collective bargaining units, whether it's being involved in just trying to prioritize different projects that we have on the horizon, you're striving towards a goal. As moderator, you're really more facilitating the discussion, so it's a very different role. And rather than arguing for what I personally might think is the best, my personal feelings need to be put aside and really just allow the legislative body of the town of Wilmington, which is the residents that show up and vote at town meeting, to make those decisions and engage in those discussions.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I see Mr. Ragsdale has settled in over here. David, thank you for being with us here this evening. How are you?
Very good. Thanks to see you, Rob.
So again, I would let all the candidates as they come in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your day, a little bit about your campaign, and again, you're up for re-election, so this is not new to you. Give us get a little bit of feel of your day and then general campaign in some.
The election day when you're running for office is an experience that is really unlike anything else. Very long day, but also very, very exciting, very energizing. You never thought that you would make so many stops between Town Hall and the Wildwood and the Boutwell at a continuous circuit during the day.
It's the Daytona 500.
Exactly, you're just doing it for sort of an endless loop here.
Yeah.
For the campaign itself, I've tried to focus on both where we've come from the past 3 years and the progress that we've made as a district, as well as the important work that we have to do moving forward to the next 3 years. Of course, most immediately with our return to full-person school, and then making plans for full return in the fall and thinking about what that's going to look like and what other measures we need to address the educational and social and emotional needs of our students. But really also thinking beyond that to the following years and the elements of our strategic plan, which we need to start moving back towards.
Great. And again, Mr. Ragsdale, as we do with all the candidates when they come in a special election night, I'm going to give you time for you to address the town of Wilmington, your voters and family at the camera right there, and say your piece to them.
I first want to begin by thanking my wife Jennifer and my 3 daughters, without whose support and sacrifices I couldn't serve on the school committee, and I want to give a heartfelt thanks to everyone who held signs for me today, who put a sign in their yard for me, who wrote endorsement letters for me, and otherwise gave me support. And I'm incredibly grateful. And irrespective of what happens tonight, I'm very grateful that I've had the opportunity to serve these past 3 years.
Thank you, Mr. Ragsdale, and certainly you had certainly a very visible level of support at the polls today as you were doing the circuit all around town. We want to thank you for coming in here tonight, and we will find out shortly how the results of your race went. But as we wait for the other one of the other individuals that was running in your seat, or for the 2 3-year seats, Ms. Burns, to get set up, I did want to just say that we did just hear that the voter turnout as of 7 p.m., so an hour before polls closed, was 6.5% tonight. So it will be at least a little bit higher than that by the time that the polls actually close an hour later, so at 8 o'clock. But Ms. Burns, welcome. I want to welcome you in here tonight. And could you tell us a little bit about your day and I guess as you were running for re-election for your 4th term on the school committee, what your day looked like as you try to earn that fourth term?
Well, I think out of most of the candidates, I'm the most experienced running around town for a good 8 to 12 hours to campaign sites. Always starts off with a high-test coffee to get over the first hurdle of the day. But it was a beautiful day, and it was a pleasure standing out, waving, and seeing everyone at the polls. So it was smooth, and it was a beautiful, enjoyable day. It really was.
So relative, as Jonathan mentioned, this is your 4th term. How is it, again, just logistics in the experience of campaigning? How did that change from when you first ran to running for your 4th term? How have you seen the changes over the years, both in the process or how you prepare yourself?
Well, it's a difficult question because I'm not a politician. I'm not a campaigner. I find that though over the years and the longevity of my seat, I find that it's just the 3rd year is always that year that I've got to be mindful. I'm so busy. I've got so many kind of irons in the fire right now, both at the local level. As you know, my colleagues have discussed about the work we're currently doing, and we foresee happening in the near future. This is an added layer to it that I think the evolution, it's easier because I know what to anticipate and what to expect, but it still becomes difficult because out of the 4 elections, I've only had 1 election that wasn't a challenge. And so, but I invite and I appreciate challengers to it because I think it propels discussions about the issues that are facing our schools and our students. And so I enjoy different perspectives and learning from that and benefiting from it. And through this, it's where I've learned the most as well on things that have not come to light to me directly on the board. So it's less anxious, I suppose, and overall.
Well, MJ, again, thank you for coming down. I'm going to give you this opportunity now to address the townspeople of Wilmington, family, friends, and supporters.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for that. I sincerely am very appreciative of everybody to take their time out of their day, hours out of their day on a beautiful 70-degree day to come and hold signs, to come out and vote. I am so sincerely grateful for the time people took to write such wonderful letters of endorsement that I'm sincerely humbled by their words and kindness. And I look forward to, and hopefully I look forward to serving another 3 years and working just as hard as I've had in the past 9 years. And I do invite sincerely anyone to reach out if there's any concerns that do need to be addressed. I'm hoping to be a representative and continue to advocate on behalf of our students, our district, and all stakeholders in that matter. But thank you so very much for your time and your patience and your sacrifice to your families to support us and myself in my run this year. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, MJ. I really appreciate that. Jonathan, we have some more candidates coming in to the studio, so I'll kick it over to you.
We did. So we just had the two incumbents for the 2 3-year seats that were open on the school committee. Now we're welcoming in one of the candidates for the single 2-year seat to the school committee that was opened up with the resignation of longtime member Steve Bjork. So at this time I want to welcome Melissa Plowman, and certainly Ms. Plowman, you certainly got a large number of letters to the editor and endorsements from folks around town. So I just want to ask for your thoughts, and as this is your first campaign, really how that process went, the work that went into it, and I guess how nice does it feel that it's finally over, understanding you don't yet know the results?
Oh, my goodness. So the process was something that I was unprepared for, but had great guidance and support from a lot of people. And I joke and I tell people my learning curve was straight up for this process. But I've met and spoken to so many people in town who have taught me a lot, and I've learned a lot about Wilmington and the people here, and I've been super blessed and fortunate for a lot of support from a lot of people who, without having gone through this process, I may never have met before. So whatever the outcome tonight, I do feel super grateful for the process in which I've been a part of.
All right, great. And I did want to give you the opportunity to thank, or say anything to your supporters that certainly volunteered not only today, but I'm sure in the months leading up to today.
The number of people who supported my campaign is outstanding, and I will forget a lot of them, so I'm going to refrain from naming people specifically, but from all of my friends and supporters who wrote letters, took signs, held signs on a number of weekends, and shared Facebook posts and spoke kind and generous words on social media. I'm very grateful for that. But obviously, I have to thank my husband, Nate, my 2 daughters, my mother-in-law, Nancy, and my dear friends who have just checked in with me every day and have been a support to me behind the scenes and out front. Today was a very exciting day. What a beautiful day for an election. I want to thank all the voters who came out today and took time to voice their opinions. I'm excited to hear what the results are, and looking forward to that.
Thank you, Melissa. Again, congratulations on at least the campaign being over, and now you can chew your fingernails as we wait for the results to come in. We are expecting them in short time.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Jonathan, it looks like we have another, looks like Justin Cuchet is coming in. He's going to settle in over here. But while we're waiting for that, I think always a quick little anecdotal story. I think the hardest question to ask is when you're reminding who do you thank. It reminds me back to the first time I ever ran for anything. I forgot to thank my wife, and it was just about the worst thing I've ever done. Now if she's watching this, she's probably at home laughing because she's never let me forget it. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Justin Cuchet, who was up for election again to fill that 2-year seat that our longtime in Wilmington good guy Steve Bjork had to step down. So, Mr. Cuchet, thank you for coming in, and why don't you just run us through your election day, what you did, how it was, again, first time ever being on any sort of ballot, so just run us through that.
Absolutely. I'd say that, again, it was kind of an experience that, being a first-timer, that I've learned a lot of lessons from, no matter what the results are tonight. I think there's a lot to take away from this election period. The election day itself today was definitely an experience, balancing getting out to all 3 polling places, waving to supporters and voters, balancing my son's soccer game and other family life at home was definitely a challenge. So definitely lessons learned. So regardless of the results tonight, it'll be lessons to take with me for the next go around, regardless of what happens.
Again, Justin, I'm going to, like I do with all the candidates, I'm going to give you a chance with this camera right in front of you here to address the voters of Wilmington and to thank your supporters, friends, and family.
Sure. Thank you to everyone who came out to vote for me. I'd like to thank my wife, Ellen, and my sons, Adam and Colin, for their support.
Okay.
And, you know, again, no matter what happens tonight, it's been a great experience. Definitely eye-opening and definitely something to look forward to, whether it's running again in the future or I just want to thank everyone, and especially my family, for their support and all the people who came out to vote today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quiche. I really appreciate your time and again your willingness to put your name out on that ballot. It's a testament to who you are, and again your willingness to contribute to our community. I really appreciate it. But we're actually going to go. We still do not have any numbers in from Town Hall, but I'm going to toss it to a quick break. When we come back, we'll hopefully have either some numbers coming in. I am going to bid adieu to my co-host here, who has to hopefully head down to Town Hall to be sworn in. Jonathan, thank you very much for co-hosting with me here tonight. First time for both of us. I think we can both probably put our resumes into Channel 5 on Monday. But again, thank you very much. And again, for not only tonight, for all you did on the Board of Selectmen, and I know you'll be a great moderator.
I appreciate that, Rob, and thanks for being, I guess, allowing me to be your co-host here tonight and ride wingman here, and again for all your assistance in getting me prepared to take over the role that you did so capably over the past 6 years.
Thank you. Again, we'll be right back with more election night coverage.
Hulu, Netflix, Peacock, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, streaming media services change not only people's viewing habits, but also change the dynamics facing WCTV. Content is tailored to specific viewer interests, which, for the viewer, is a good thing. It allows people to cut the cord and eliminate programming they neither watch or need. An unforeseen consequence is that it impacts WCTV in a very challenging and costly way.
WCTV is funded almost entirely by a percentage of cable companies' revenues, based off the amount of cable subscribers we have in Wilmington. In short, less cable subscribers equals less revenue for WCTV. If you utilize any of WCTV's resources by creating your own program or watching local meetings and sports online, and you are not a cable subscriber, there is a way to help. I hope you will consider making a donation so that we can continue delivering these programs and more to you. For those of you who have made a donation, I thank you. We do receive these and we are very appreciative.
Welcome back. Again, I'm Rob Peterson. You're one of the co-hosts here tonight. I am actually joined now by a new co-host, Mr. Greg Bendel of the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Bendel, thank you for being here again with us tonight. You've actually moved over to the main set, and it's glad to have you here.
Thank you very much, Rob. Happy to be here again.
So right now, obviously, Mr. Eaton has gone to Town Hall. He's anxiously awaiting the votes. We were told we'd have the totals somewhere around 8:15. So in the interim, while we're waiting for those votes to come in, why don't we just talk about the races we had and what you might have seen at the polls today?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like as we got at the latest update about 7 o'clock that there was 6.5%. So again, more than last year, almost more than double, with just 3.2% last year. I would imagine we'll be right around 7 at some point. I don't think we'll get too much in that final hour, but you never know. Some people are getting out of work or leaving different events and will swing by on their way home last minute. But right now, I think at Town Hall, they're quickly collecting and tallying all the votes, and I know the candidates are making their way over there, and everybody's really excited. It's always like a really exciting time to wait and find out. But I think the races to keep an eye on are certainly the 2 school committee races. They're both contested, a number of really good candidates. So I think most people will be anxiously awaiting those results.
Yeah, it was in relative to those school committee races. It was an interesting turn because the hot hot button or the hotbed item for that race, or again, just in general, the school committee in general, was moving these kids back into full in-person learning. So it was at some point during the race there was announced that was what we were going to be doing. So even during those debates, it was how do you frame if that's why you were running? You obviously that was something that contributed to it, and I actually thought that all the candidates did a really good job of well, this is what we wanted. This is what is being done. But how do you now try to get these kids back up to speed for this significant time in missing classroom? So I thought all the school committee candidates, again, in the debates, they did a really good job kind of transitioning as not only getting the kids back in, which is obviously why, or a major reason why some of them are running, or most of them are running, but they also did a good job explaining that not only was that what they wanted to do, they also wanted to make sure that the time these kids have missed in school is made up, and how you can handle that moving forward. So I thought that was a big thing. So that was again those two school committee races, again the two seats for the 3-year and then the 1 seat for the 2-year is again what brought probably most people to those polls.
Absolutely, and like you mentioned, it's been a challenging year for everybody, whether you're a parent, whether you're an educator, or especially if you're on the school committee, and you're more than likely a parent as well. We've transitioned from one challenge to another. The first challenge was how do we get them back, given the guidance that they had to work within. And now the new challenge will be, what does that look like, and how do we make sure that these kids are comfortable? Where are these children, and what's their mental mindset right now coming out of a year more at home or learning remotely or hybrid? And so how do we make sure that it's a smooth transition for them, teachers as well, and make sure everybody's comfortable and safe?
Yep. Well, that's great. In another race, although albeit uncontested, is you have Lilia Maselli running for the Jonathan Eaton seat in the Board of Selectmen. Why don't you walk us through a little bit of the changing face of the board, and what specifically we can talk to it. Since he's gone now, I don't like building him up too high when he's here. But tell us about what you folks are going to miss most about having Jonathan on your board.
Well, this all started because we had a really good moderator decide not to run, and so I'm really, really excited that Jonathan's decided, although he's not going to continue on the Board of Selectmen, that he's going to continue to serve his community. I hope his capacity as a moderator. I think he'll do a great job. We've been very, very lucky in town to have a long tradition of a strong moderator, including yourself, and back to Jimmy Stewart, and now I think Jonathan will do a great job. But he does leave big shoes to fill. He is, I've said it a couple times publicly, can't say it enough, Jonathan is very, very intelligent, very articulate, and he does his homework. He knows the issues very well. And I am also equally impressed with Lil Maselli. I have the good fortune of serving with her on the Economic Development Committee over the last 2 years, gotten to know her a little bit. And I think she's in this for all the right reasons. If you listen to what she said during the campaign, she continually says, I have an open mind. She's trying to act as a sponge. She's been reading up. She's been watching past meetings. And she's trying to make informed decisions when she gets there. And so I'm really looking forward to working with her. I think she'll be a huge asset to the board as we transition to a really important period in our history of our community.
Yeah, that's great. In relative to, you have this, what we see coming through with Jonathan leaving and Lil coming on the board. The dynamics of that all change. So how do you think with Jonathan leaving the board, how does that leave your board dynamic? And you have a history of, the board has a history of, although there might be moments of disagreement, of working as a cohesive unit when needed.
Yeah, it's an interesting makeup. Besides me, I think they're all really talented people. And but what really strikes me is that I can remember growing up and paying attention to local government, admittedly, as I was growing up, and I would look up to the selectmen, whoever they might be at the time, and I can remember how long they were on the board, whether it was 9 years, 12 years, even 30 years in the case of Mr. McCoy. And now, your ranking members have just been there 5 years. And we have really some fresh faces on the board, which is a good thing, right? New ideas, new strategies, new thoughts, and I'm sure we'll be working together very closely on a lot of challenges coming up. I know I'm personally looking forward to working with Lil on the board. I'm looking forward to working with Mr. De Palma, who just joined us just about 9 or 10 months ago. Obviously, Joe Marie O'Mahony is in her second year, and Mr. Kyra, who's been with me now for 5 years. So we have a relatively very young board, if you will, in terms of, I don't think we've ever had this inexperienced a board here in town. I'd have to go way back to find that out. But I think it's a good thing. We have some fresh ideas, and I'm really looking forward to working with this group.
Sounds great. Why don't you take us through, Wilmington's roadmap? What do you see as coming up for Wilmington in the next, we'll forecast out year, 5 years, 10 years, and what you think we're going to have to be faced with most immediately?
Well, the most important thing is what you guys mentioned at the top of the show. The town meeting is just a week away now, and admittedly, I think it's always the biggest day in our town. It's so important. In excess of $120 million budget, 64 articles, 49 of them being sponsored by the town and the schools, 15 of them being petitioned by residents. And so it's the purest form of democracy, to use your phrase that you've used many times, at play. And this year we'll be back indoors, although last year was kind of nice outside. We had a cool breeze.
Yeah.
Your hair stayed perfect, which is, I don't know.
You got to wear shorts, which was great.
Yes, you did, behind the podium.
Yeah.
This year you won't be able to do that.
No,
But
I'll be in the hospital. Great.
Yes.
I'll be having my third child, so I'm hoping to make it to town meeting. But my soon-to-be child, she doesn't really seem to want to cooperate. So we'll see. I'm hopefully, I haven't missed a town meeting in a very, 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 very long time, even predating my term as moderator. So I'm hoping to be there. So.
Well,
but either way, I won't be getting away short.
I think your streak is over, because I had never missed a selectman meeting until just past month, when I made it about halfway through the meeting and my wife said, "We got to go." She went into labor, and we were very fortunate to welcome our third daughter. So your streak might be over of town meetings as well.
It was Andrea's crowning achievement. She got to interrupt the selectmen's meeting. So
I know she'd been looking forward to that.
Now we can wrap off here about us having 3 girls.
Well, if you have to run out, we'll know what happened.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. So hopefully that's going to wait till Wednesday. So,
but congratulations, by the way. We're wishing you and Kelly all the best.
Thank you very much. So Jonathan and I touched on this too a little bit, just about the town meeting, and some questions that we had talked about before that people usually ask. As you know, we have a 150-person quorum, so people say, well, can I come and go? And I had asked someone the question the other day, they said, well, how does the quorum work? So I said, well, the quorum only works, you got to hit it once. Once you hit it once, you can open the meeting and the business of the town of Wilmington can go on. At any point thereafter, you do not have to have that. It's not like we have a minimum you have to maintain it. It's you hit it once and you keep going. So I mean, I'm hopeful that in the years to come too, that we can try to drive up attendance. It's a long meeting, but some of the stuff that we implemented last year that Jonathan is going to carry forth this year, consent agendas, handling the budget a little differently, kind of allows things to move along. You're maintaining the integrity of the meeting, but you're also being mindful of people's time. So you're allowing people to ask questions on things that they have every right to ask the questions on. Again, a very large budget. You're allowing people to ask questions on that budget. But again, you have to, and you as a selectman, I know we had talked about this last year around this time too, is we all have to be mindful that it is very hard for any person to give 8-10 hours of their day to go to one of these meetings. So I think the town is taking some strides and some steps, and I hope we keep making those steps to make these meetings more accessible. And again, it's not, I don't like using the word streamline, because you don't want to streamline democracy, but you want to make it so it's more efficient. And I think we're doing that. So any thoughts on that, or what we're trying to do to make this process more efficient?
Yeah, I think that's the goal, and thanks to people like yourself and the bylaw committee that really spent a lot of time making some tweaks to the meeting. As you mentioned, I'm hoping that we'll see a little more of an efficient meeting this year. And it's a big challenge. It's a busy time of year. We're coming out of a pandemic. We hope it to be another beautiful day. We hope we get more beautiful days like we did today. But people have religious events and sporting events, and they got to work, and the last thing they want to do is sit there for 12 hours to wait for a particular article that they might be interested in. And so I think things like a consent agenda will really help. I think the earlier start will help, whereas in the past we started at 10:30, sometimes waited upwards of an hour to get a quorum. Now we're starting at 9. We hope to have a quorum at 9, but if we don't, hopefully it'll be earlier than 10:30 than we normally start. And so there's been some tweaks made. I think people will see a difference, and I know Jonathan will have his hands full explaining all that to folks when they get there, but I think he'll do a great job of it.
Yeah, and Jonathan and I had been talking about that in previous days about explaining some of these changes to people who have been longtime stalwarts of this process, and they're used to how things have been done for 30 plus years. But instituting these things in such a way where people can understand it, and I think with myself leaving and Jonathan taking over, it's going to be in very capable hands. He's a smart, intelligent guy, and he's going to be able to very precisely tell people, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and the reason being because it really, when it all boils down to it, even if you can just cut out some of that procedure, you are saving invaluable time that people, like being around you, Greg, but what people would say was, I don't want to spend 10 hours of my day going through stuff which is I shouldn't say majority, but a good chunk of that is just it's procedure. It's reading the article, doing the motion, seconding the motion, discussion, and then you kind of if you just go just that alone. So reading the article, motion, second, then the person reading it has to read it back in, and that takes up a lot of time. So if you can use things such as this consent agenda, or do the budget in omnibus fashion, but still allow people to ask questions on these matters. That's how you're going to get people to the meetings and also have more voter participation.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention all the hard work and preparation that goes into getting ready for town meeting. Having been through it 6 times, especially last year during the pandemic, we know how much hard work you put into it. But the town as a whole, all the departments are feverishly working to prepare the physical space and just preparation to be ready. The manager's office, the finance committee, all the boards and committees in town are preparing. And I would really encourage all residents, if you have 5-10 minutes or more, if you have thumb through the warrant article that got delivered into your mailbox this past week, see what's on the docket for the day. If there's anything that interests you, jump online. There's a lot of information about each article. You can also go back on WCTV and the town's website to view the finance committee meetings where they thoroughly went through the budget. And certainly reach out to your elected officials. I welcome calls, and people are starting to pay attention now. It's just a week away, and maybe they have questions. So reach out to town hall or to your elected officials and ask questions so you can make informed decisions next Saturday. We really hope you'll be there. I know people are making arrangements. We're lining up babysitters, my wife and I, today. So we are getting ready.
Yeah, and relative to reaching out, the selectmen do have town emails too, so they can get that on the town's website, I would imagine.
Yep, we have town emails, but you can also call town hall. They'll give us the phone number that each selectman lists, and you can get a hold of them that way. And that's the way we really like. I really love that part of this job, is that when people call up and have a question, you can point them in the right direction, because people are busy. They're living their lives, they're raising their families, they're working their jobs, and when they have a question, they don't have time to sit through the meetings or to read through packets of information. They want to be able to call up their elected official and get their question answered, and that's the part I like, is really being able to help out residents that way and point them in the right direction.
It all sounds great. So we're still waiting on word from Town Hall. We have nothing yet. Again, at 7:00 p.m. it was 6.5% voter turnout, but there is no official results from Town Hall. Mr. Eaton is down there waiting in person to see if he can be, or if as and when he can be sworn in as town moderator. As for the other hopefuls, let's just talk about. There was it's very interesting, because you can have some races that are uncontested and some races that become contested, and I can tell you that years come up when school committee is I'm just thinking about school committee off the top of my head, but there's some years where there's a plethora of people running, and other years it's unopposed, and it's the same thing for selectmen. So what have you? Having run and having seen this the process play out over the past years. You give anybody credit for being willing to put their name on a ballot and get out there, because it's easier to, again, critique from home, so on and so forth. They call it the Monday morning quarterbacking. But what do you think as far as people getting involved in town, putting the name out and running for these positions?
It's critical. We need more of it. Quite frankly, these are volunteer positions, so I take my hat off to every single one of these people that are putting their name out. And having done it, I can tell you it's not always very comfortable. It's not easy to put your name out there and plead your case with people and explain about yourself, and then see how it goes. It takes a lot. And again, I mentioned it. Everyone's really busy raising their family and working their job. To take on a challenge like this, they really ought to be applauded. I really applaud all these candidates for stepping up during difficult times. It's not like it normally is, where you can go out and see big crowds of people and meet with them, and so I really, hats off to all these people, because it takes a lot to put yourself out there, and we need more good people to step up, and I'm so glad we saw. And I really think that some of these people who, even if not elected tonight, should continue to pursue it and get involved, stay involved.
And I think that's very important. And I have had this, so as moderator too, what you do is you not only do you moderate these town meetings, but you also have the distinct honor of appointing people to the Finance Committee, which over my term is 6 years, became increasingly more difficult. More people and more people were applying. But what I really like to see is I also saw people applying once, not getting it, and then come back and reapplying. So they weren't getting, they weren't getting down on themselves because they didn't get it once. They came back, and I do like what you said, that there's many candidates running in this. There's more candidates running than there are seats to be had here, and I would hope that these people stick around and they stay involved.
And we have vacancies right now, so if they're interested, boards like I believe it's the Conservation Committee. There are others off the top of my head where we're looking for people to step up, and so if you're interested in getting involved in some way or another, reach out to Town Hall.
Okay. Yep, and I'm getting in my ear now that we do have numbers coming in. We will be reporting those as soon as we have them. I think we're going to go down. The first numbers we're going to be coming in is the 3-year school committee. Perfect. So there was the total turnout today was 6.6%. So for the 3-year seat on the school committee. We had MJ Burns at 727 votes. We had David Ragsdale at 788 votes. And we had James DeFeo with 477 votes. So again, that is MJ Burns. This is all precincts reporting. And so the total number of votes were MJ Burns with 727 votes, David Ragsdale with 788 votes, and Jim DeFeo with 477 votes. So again, Greg, in this race, it looks like it's going to be the incumbent staying in with MJ Burns 727 and David Ragsdale at 788. Yeah. So obviously the incumbents did a nice job of pleading their case of why they should be reelected. I believe for MJ it's her 4th term. For David, it's his 2nd term. So congratulations to them, and also congratulations to James DeFeo on stepping up. And like we were just talking about, it takes a lot to step up, and hopefully he'll stay involved as well. Great. And again, for the 2-year, again, this was to fill the seat vacated by Steve Bjork. We had Melissa Plowman with 778 votes, Justin Cuchet with 132 votes, and Yvonne Halbert had 195 votes. So again, that's Plowman with 778 votes, Cuchet with 132 votes, and Halbert with 195 votes. So it looks like Plowman's going to take this the 2-year seat vacated. She's going to fill out the term for Steve Bjork. Yeah, and so hats off to her. She came out strong very early, had a bunch of endorsements, a very aggressive campaign, very positive. I had a chance to talk to her a number of times, and looks like she made all the right moves, and so congratulations to her. And again, so thanks, Greg. We're going to sit around and wait here, but I'm going to turn it over now. I'm going to throw it down to Town Hall where they're waiting to do the swearing in. But actually, we're going to hold on a second on that one because they're actually not ready to do the swearing in at Town Hall. So, Greg, I'm looking at the numbers here. It looks like the incumbents did very well in that school committee race. Again, it looks like from what I'm seeing here, and I don't have the numbers for moderator, selectmen, but relative to the races that I'm seeing here for school committee, looks like David Ragsdale topped the ticket for his race at 788, and MJ Burns 727. That's a strong showing for incumbents. Oh, absolutely, and I'll go ahead and put it out. I'll put it out my projection that Jonathan Eaton will be victorious. I'll go out on a limb and say that. And it looks like we're going to go to the swearing in. Yep, we're going to go. We're going to shoot it right down to Town Hall for the swearing in. We'll be right here waiting for you when we get back. So yeah, one of the things I'll be looking at is the total number of votes
6.6%, up from last year, 3.2. Again, the election was in June 20th, during the pandemic. Again, we're still in the pandemic, but people are beginning to be vaccinated. People are wearing their masks and social distancing. We look like we're moving in the right direction. So we see a slight increase, not as much as we'd like to, right? 2019, we had almost 20%. Even that, it's nothing to brag about, but it's being realistic. It's where we average. And just going back, 2018, we had 2,600 votes. 2017, 2,800 votes, and then 16 and 17, just over 2,000. So this is right exactly where I thought we might be, somewhere between 6 and 7%.
Yeah, and again, it's in a pandemic, everything is still shaping up differently. So it looks like, at least as far as the times we live in, as many times you've heard that over the past year, it looks like we're at least trending in the right direction for at least voter turnout as well.
And the other thing to look at too, I'll be curious to see, is the mail-in vote. This does include already, my understanding, this includes mail-in ballots, and that's obviously been expanded in recent history, and that's playing more of a prominent role than it ever has, even at the local level. And so I'll be interested to see how it is, number of ballots that were mailed in versus who showed up at the polls today. Because people are busy, they can take advantage of that. If they don't feel comfortable going out during the pandemic, they can take advantage of that. So that's certainly going to play a major role going forward, and we'll see how much of a role it played today.
Yeah, Tina Conway and her office, they do a great job relative to getting those ballots out. So I am too anxiously waiting to see what Tina's office releases relative to numbers.
We shouldn't go any further without thanking Tina and Beth Lawrenson and everybody who volunteered at the polls today. I know we were over at, my family was at the Boutwell early this morning. Beverly Dalton and her crew were anchored down there, and they were there all day. It's a long day for these election workers, so really, really grateful for them. A lot of work goes in. It's a very long day to do that, and a lot of work, so huge thanks to all the election workers.
Yeah, and again, especially Tina and her staff. They've been doing a great job, especially during a pandemic. They've done a great job with the logistics relative to town meeting. They've done a great job relative to elections, and it's just something that we talked a lot. You heard a lot about during this election process relative to every governmental body dealing with an unprecedented time. So we shouldn't overlook the fact that these election workers and the town clerk's office too, they've done an exemplary job during these times.
We were just talking about that in the hallway with some of the candidates as they were waiting to come on with you, Rob. I mean, it's just the second year in a row, people haven't been able to go out and campaign the way they normally would, brick and mortar, door to door type of thing that we're used to here in Wilmington. And now they've heavily had to lean on the online, which is a challenge for some folks because not everybody's online. Yep. And so that definitely played a factor, I think, here.
Yep. And it looks like we're getting some word that we're going to go down to Town Hall, so we're going to toss it down to Town Hall and wait to see what the swearing in has for us.
So you're just going to repeat after me. Whenever you're ready. Raise your right hand. I, Lilia Maselli.
I, Lilia Maselli.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully and impartially.
That I will faithfully and impartially.
And to the best of my ability.
And to the best of my ability.
Perform the duties incumbent upon me.
Perform the duties incumbent upon me.
As a selectman.
As a selectman.
According to the Constitution of the United States.
According to the Constitution of the United States.
The laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
The laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
And the bylaws of the town of Wilmington.
And the bylaws of the town of Wilmington.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's get you to sign right here.
So we just heard Lil Maselli be sworn in, and so they take for those who are not familiar, they take the oath of office. They are sworn in, so effective right now. Lil is the newest member of our board, so congratulations to her, and that's an exciting moment for her and her family.
Yeah, and I did hear Tina Conway, our town clerk, say they were going to go in order, so we'll anxiously wait to see who's going to be up next to be sworn in. So Greg, having gone through this on election night, what is it like being victorious in the election and then doing the swearing-in process? And I assume, as you can attest to the folks tuning in, that it is a little bit of a sign of relief.
It is a big sign of relief. I mean, I was very fortunate to win a couple times, and it was very nerve-wracking. And so I can imagine that they're anxious, nervous, and excited, and I know Lil's feeling very relieved.
And we're going to keep back to Town Hall because Jonathan Eaton's being sworn in as the town moderator.
Raise your right hand. I, Jonathan Eaton,
I, Jonathan Eden,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially,
that I will faithfully and impartially,
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
perform the duties incumbent upon me
perform the duties incumbent upon me
as town moderator
as town moderator,
according to the Constitution of the United States,
according to the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and the bylaws of the town of Wilmington,
and the bylaws of the town of Wilmington.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, miss.
I need you to sign right over here.
And that's Jonathan Eaton, having left his seat in the Board of Selectmen, taking the oath of office for the moderator. So I know, John, we've discussed this already at nauseam, but Jonathan's going to do a great job as moderator.
I couldn't agree more. If you think this stands out to me, is it's the second Austin Prep guy in a row to sit in that, stand in that seat.
Roll Cougs, you know. What else can I say? Nobody else can. We need to take it over from those Wilmington High guys. So when I took back from Jimmy.
See, I like the way you're talking now. That you're unofficially an elected official.
Yeah.
You're still a leader in our community, just not elected. But Jonathan will do an excellent job. I know he's feverishly been preparing, and he's the type of guy that we need in this community, because he was going to take a step back from office, to focus on family and his career. But he really saw that we had a need. No one had pulled papers for your seat, and it shows you the type of guy he is. He stepped up and took on the challenge. So I really am appreciative to him, and I wish him and Sarah, Cole and Hadley all the best.
Yeah, he did text me today. He said he's going to pull papers, and it was a welcome relief, because he's going to be you've mentioned it. He has the right demeanor for that, and he also has he has the smarts, and he's going to be able to effectively navigate the town meeting process. So we're going to kick it back down. Greg, we're going to kick it back down to, looks like we're going to have the school committee coming up to being sworn in.
2,
Where do you want me?
3, right there, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. After I say your own name, and then repeat after me the rest of it, okay? I
MJ
David Ragsdale.
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially,
That
that I will faithfully and impartially,
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
perform the duties incumbent upon me
perform the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the school committee,
as a member of the school committee,
according to the Constitution of the United States,
according to the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and the bylaws of the town of Wilmington.
and the bylaws of the town of Wilmington.
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations to all
Thank
of
you
you.
so very
Let's
much.
get
Thank
us
you.
signed in.
All right, so that was the school committee. So now we've had the selectmen, the school committee, and the moderator. So we're still waiting on, I believe we have the Shawshene Tech School Committee, we have the Wilmington Housing Authority, and those should be the last two up for tonight.
Yeah, so there's a couple important races as well. Very happy to see Laurie Penny step up for that position, and also likewise with Charlie Fury. Two important positions.
Yeah, Charlie Fury took over again for a long time. Shawshene Tech School Committee member Jim Gillis. Mr. Gillis has had a long history of service to Wilmington, whether it be as athletic director at Wilmington High School, and then into retirement when he took over and took the seat on at Shawshene Tech, and he did a great job over there. So it's going to be nice to have another outstanding gentleman on that seat, in Mr. Fiore, and I know he'll do a great job over there.
Absolutely. I'm really grateful to him for stepping up. I think we'll have two strong representatives from the town of Wilmington on that committee now.
At least one.
I won't ask you which one you think is your favorite.
It's Charlie.
But yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thanks so much to Jimmy Gillis. He served our community very well for a long time, so we wish him well. One of the things that I wanted to mention was that these candidates, now elected officials, will hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, as we're speaking, the police department will be delivering a packet to Lil's house, which she'll now have to read through in preparation for Monday night's meeting. So she'll turn around in less than 48 hours and have a Board of Selectmen meeting on 7 o'clock on Monday. And the school committee, obviously, those candidates won't skip a beat, if I had to guess, and they'll be right back into it this week. Jonathan as moderator. We have a prep meeting on Wednesday for town meeting, which he'll be a part of, and he'll be preparing. So not like these folks get a lot of time off.
No.
And so in addition to collecting some signs tomorrow in the rain, But I hope folks will give them a pass. Maybe let them sleep in tomorrow a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting having done it myself. When you're elected moderator, it's almost a surreal turnaround. So you're elected moderator, and then you're going right into it's the next week, and it's one of those things where, I mean, you're essentially, or you are effectively running in eight, we'll just call it 8 hours, or a very long meeting, and it's all on you, and you have to be, on your stuff, be familiarized with the budget, be familiarized with the warrant, and then also familiarized with the rules and regulations and Massachusetts general laws that go along with being the moderator. So it's a very and it's always a 1 week quick turnaround. So it's interesting, but it's one of those things where I told Jonathan too when we talked about this. I said, being a moderator it's like anything else. It doesn't, I don't like using the word, it gets easier year after year, but it just, when you become more accustomed to it, there's just, you're almost like a well-oiled machine at one point, just saying, oh, well, this is what I got to do. And then, last year when we had, every curveball in the world thrown at us too, so that was very interesting. So it's my last year overseeing a meeting. Yep. Okay, so it looks like we're not going to have any more swearing. We're not going to have any more swearing-ins at Town Hall. Greg. So again, that's going to do it for us here this evening. And just to go over the results from this year's 2021 annual town election, we had a 6.6% turnout, and for the 3-year seat, we had MJ Burns getting 727 votes. We had David Ragsdale with 788 votes, and we had James DeFea with 477 votes. And then we move on from there to the 2-year school committee seat. We had Melissa Plowman with 778 votes. She was the winner. Justin Cuchet with 132 votes, and Yvonne Halbert with 195 votes. And then all other elections were obviously uncontested. So
congratulations to the winners, and to those who came up short, keep your heads high. You should be proud of yourselves, having run a really positive races. We didn't have any negativity, I don't think, in these races, and so congratulations to all of them, and I hope they'll stay involved.
It's always nice to see no negativity in politics at a time where on the national stage is so pervasive. So again, first of all, I want to thank you, Greg, for being here with me this evening. I want to thank Jonathan Eaton for being with me originally and then abandoning me because he had to go get sworn in or something. But I also want to thank the folks at WCTV. They do an invaluable service to our town, getting us this coverage and coverage of various municipal meetings. So our crew here at WCTV, we have Adam Dusenberry, we have Sean Tiven, we have Stephen Zubricki, Ryan Malyar, and Don Laird, who are working this evening's coverage. Again, WCTV offers an invaluable asset to the community, and we can't thank them enough.
Incredible job. This is awesome. You look like John King up here tonight. You just need that board behind you, the big board.
Yeah, we're gonna. I told me, you, and Mr. Eaton will go on Monday. We'll try to send our reel out to all the news stations. Hopefully, we can get new gigs.
I don't know about you guys. I'm in trouble.
Yeah, me too. Again, Greg, thank you very much for being here. Again, I want to remind everyone, next Saturday, 9 a.m., Shriners Auditorium, we have the 2021 annual town meeting. Anyone can go. Any registered voter can go and obviously vote. So again, 9 o'clock a.m. next Saturday at the Shriners Auditorium. I hope you all take time out of your day to be there. And again, thank you very much for tuning in tonight, and thank you for all those people who were involved in our voting process this year, and especially all those who went out there and voted. So thank you very much, and have a great night.
Good night.